From WYPR, I'm Sheila Cast. We're on the record. As she grew up, Petula Caesar's African-American father praised her good grades and her light skin. He raised her to be deferential to white people and to see blacks as dangerous.
So he knew that life might not treat me kindly, and no parent wants that for their child. And he figured this was the best way to send me out there. And it wasn't.
Then Sujata Massey's newest novel is The Widows of Malabar Hill, set almost a century ago in what's now Mumbai, India. Her heroine, whose traditional ethnic last name is just one syllable shy of mystery, is a pioneering lawyer who comes upon murder, kidnapping, and a secret passageway as she investigates a suspicious will. A memoir and a mystery on the record after the news.
You're listening to On the Record, the podcast, a service of your public radio, 88.1 WYPR. Find more podcasts online at wypr.org. And tell us what you think. Send an email to ontherecord@wypr.org.
Good morning, I'm Sheila Cast. We're on the record. Growing up in New Jersey and later in Baltimore, Petula Caesar had her parents' undivided attention. They bought her every toy she could wish for, stocked their home with books for her to read, and lavished praise on her for her good grades and her pale complexion. That was the rub. Petula's light-skinned, straight-haired African-American father had no use for black culture and a horror of dark complexions. As Caesar tells it in her new memoir titled, "She's Such a Bright Girl, An American Story," her parents imparted countless messages that white people were to be emulated and black people, for the most part, could not be trusted. How she came to grips with those messages is the point of the book. And Petula Caesar is here to share the story. Welcome to On the Record.
Thank you very much for having me, Sheila. I appreciate it.
Before you told us anything about your own growing up, you start your book with some scenes of various family members relating to your young daughter, Jasmine, who looked a lot like you, including a Sunday morning when she was about 4 years old visiting your parents.
Yes.
What happened?
The Sunday morning breakfast was kind of a tradition in my family. So I would bring my daughter to my parents' house in East Baltimore to have breakfast on Sundays with them. Very typical Sunday morning. My parents are in the basement where the kitchen is. My daughter runs over to my dad. She was very, very close to him. And they're having a very lovely grandfather-granddaughter moment. And he looks at his granddaughter, then looks at me and says, "Jasmine's lovely," other complimentary things, but it's such a shame about her hair. And she's literally sitting on his lap just inches away. And, of course, she's horrified. She grabs her hair and she says, "Mom, Grandpa, what's wrong with my hair?" And she's just totally devastated and freaked out. And then I am charged with the task of keeping my daughter calm and not being as angry as I would have liked to have been in that moment. So there was a lot of juggling and balancing for me.
And why was that where you wanted to start your story?
Well, for a few reasons. Because my daughter is relatively young. She's in her 20s now. I wanted to make the point that this is not something that happened a long time ago, or that this is not something that we've gotten past or gotten over. It's still very prevalent in the Black community. The second point I wanted to make was that I wanted it not to just be about me and my struggle in particular. Because when these types of things happen in families, they don't just happen to the immediate participants. They make their way forward into the next generations and so on and so on and so forth. And in that moment, I really, really wanted my mom in particular to kind of come and rescue my daughter from what was happening and to kind of indirectly rescue me because I'd had similar things happen to me as a child. So I wanted to really drive home that point of these things really are generational. They happen to you and they're perpetuated and they move forward unless you really make a point to try to put a stop to it.
Your parents never spanked you?
No, they did not.
And they spread the rule among the extended family, like when you were visiting cousins in Jenkins Jones, West Virginia, where your
Yes.
parents grew up.
Yes.
They were not to use corporal punishment.
No one was to lay a finger on me for any infraction under any circumstances. It just was not done. It was made extremely clear, almost on the pain of death, that you just didn't do that to Petula.
And you asked your dad why?
Yes, I did once I figured it out. Initially, it just seemed very normal to me. Typically, as a child, what happens in your home, you kind of figure that's what happens everywhere. As I got a little older, I realized a lot of my peers did get spankings and things like that. So I did ask my dad eventually if it were true that he had made that comment, that order. He'd sent that order sort of down to the family. By this time, I'd kind of heard from my mom that he'd given those instructions. So I asked him if it were true. He said yes. And he explained that he did not want me to think that violence was normal. He went on further to make the point that it was very unfortunate that Black people were so naturally violent and that they just did not know how to conduct themselves in any other way. They were just naturally hot-headed and had bad tempers and just inflicted all this pain and violence on each other. And because of this, white people did not want to be around them, and he did not want to set those kind of examples for me. So he had ordered all the people in the family, all the Black people, not to inflict physical violence on me, so I would not think it was normal. And that would cause me to go out into the world and not perpetuate violence to others, and that would make me more acceptable to white people.
That's writer and performance poet Petula Caesar here on the record on WYPR. I'm Sheila Cast. We're talking about her new memoir, She's Such a Bright Girl, An American Story. On Saturday, she'll host a luncheon and panel discussion about it near Mondawmin Mall. You were 12, about to start junior high when your family moved to Baltimore. How did that change things?
So I came to Baltimore and I found I wasn't teased as much about my complexion. I found it a little bit easier to kind of navigate my social circle as a preteen and as a teenager when I came here. In New Jersey, it was much, much more challenging. I was literally chased home from school, beat up, all kinds of things. That didn't happen as much in Baltimore until I got a little bit closer to adulthood. So Baltimore, in a lot of respects, treated me very well when I got here initially, and I really was very, very glad to be here.
You were always a good student. You
Yes.
wrote great essays, got accepted at all 5 colleges you applied to, including your first choice, Howard University in Washington, but you didn't end up going there.
No, I did not, much to my chagrin to this day. Initially, my dad was supportive of my decision to go to Howard because that's what you do when your child gets into college. You say good job and congratulations and all those things. But as it got closer to the time for me to actually go to Washington, he changed his tune. He started saying things to discourage me. He sabotaged my self-confidence, to be honest with you. He would say things like, "You'll be there all alone and we won't be here to help you," as if Howard was just so far away. And, will you be all right around all those Black people? And will you really be challenged academically at a Black school? Because that's not really what the world is. And my mother just kind of deferred to him. She just kind of said, well, I just think your dad knows what would be best for you. So from the time that I actually got my acceptance, which was like in April, he started the campaign. And by the time July rolled around, I just didn't feel like I could do it. So I ended up not going to Howard, and I went to my 5th choice school, which was Towson. That was not a fun time.
And you only stayed about half a semester.
I stayed from August when I moved into the dorms, went home early for Thanksgiving break, and did not go back.
Early in your book, you write, quote, "Even now, I know Dad did it all for me. It was done to make me the best version of me possible," close quote. What should we understand about that?
When I initially started writing this book, it even had a different title and just a different perspective. As I started writing it, I came to realize I was still dealing with how I felt about all of this. But I really, really had to think about where my father came from and the experiences he had that I know nothing about. I can't possibly imagine all that he had to quell within himself just to survive. So I know that he really meant well. He really thought that the things that he did were the best way to send me off into the world successfully. He didn't want me to experience the trauma that he experienced himself and that he had witnessed. So he knew that life might not treat me kindly, and no parent wants that for their child. And he figured this was the best way to send me out there. And it wasn't.
So what do you hope this book accomplishes?
Like most writers, telling my story is just important to me. Beyond that, oftentimes we do not take the time to really think about why we are the way we are. Sometimes life gets very, very challenging and difficult, and a lot of our energy and efforts really get focused into day-to-day survival. And you don't always take the time you like to really reflect on, why do I feel the way I do? And why do I respond to certain things and situations the way I do? And it just seems like a luxury that we can't afford for some reason. But it is so vitally important, because everything we are starts with what we think about ourselves and our circumstances. So I'm trying to encourage us to find a space to think about how we got to be the way we are, particularly as it relates to colorism in the African American community. It is definitely still a thing. It is still something that we struggle with and that we need to discuss from all kinds of angles. So I also really want to introduce that conversation into the forefront of the conversations that we have about race, because how we identify racially does affect a lot of the ways that we think. And I realize how important that is, especially after writing this book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Petula Caesar is a writer, artist, and performance poet. Her new memoir is She's Such a Bright Girl, an American Story.